Before I tell you what happened in the Edwards Desert, you need to understand one thing. Ships shouldn't be alive. Metal shouldn't breathe. And technology shouldn't recognize your name. But in March 2024, I touched something that was neither machine nor organism. It was both. And when I spoke to it, it answered. My name is Colonel David Chen. And this is the story of how I discovered that some technologies are not built. They are born. I am 42 years old, with 18 years of service in the United States Air Force, specializing in aircraft recovery and reverse engineering. I've spent most of my career in facilities that don't officially exist, studying technology that the public doesn't know exists. Edwards Air Force Base. Area 51. Dugway Proving Ground. If something falls from the sky and the government wants to keep it secret, my team is called. I had seen strange things before. Soviet prototypes. Advanced Chinese drones, even some American projects so classified that not even I had full authorization to know their true function. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the call I received at 4:32 a.m. on March 15, 2024. Colonel Chen, said a voice I recognized immediately. General Patricia Morrison, head of Special Operations. We have a Bravo Zulu situation. Immediate recovery required. Edwards, Sector 7 Delta. You have 90 minutes. Bravo Zulu situation. Code 4, something unidentified, unauthorized, and definitely not ours. Understood. I'm on my way. Chen, she paused. Take biological equipment. And Chaplain Rodriguez. My blood ran cold. In 18 years, I had never heard such a request. Sir. Biological equipment? You'll understand when you get there. And Chen? None of this goes into a standard report. Nothing. The helicopter took me to the most remote part of Edwards, an area that doesn't appear on any public map. As we began the descent, I saw the security perimeter first. Military vehicles forming concentric circles. Soldiers with weapons rarely seen outside of war zones. And in the center, something was glowing. It wasn't a reflection of the rising sun. It was its own light. Pulsating. Like a heart. We landed 200 meters from the object. General Morrison was waiting for me, her face pale, hands trembling slightly as she held a cup of coffee. How long has it been here? I asked. We detected the impact at 2:17 a.m. But Chen. She looked me in the eyes. There was no explosion. There was no impact crater. It simply appeared. As if it had always been there. We walked toward the object. With every step, I felt something strange. A vibration. Not in the ears. Deeper. In the bones. In the chest. Any radiation? I asked. None our equipment can detect. But 3 of the first responders fainted when they got too close. They woke up after 5 minutes, with no physical injuries. But 2 of them were crying. The third kept repeating, she's alone. She's so alone. We stopped at 50 meters. And finally, I saw it. It wasn't like anything I had seen in my 18-year career. It didn't have the typical flying saucer shape you see in movies. It wasn't triangular like our stealth prototypes. It was organic. Fluid. It was approximately 12 meters long and 8 meters wide, but those dimensions seemed to shift slightly when you looked at it. As if the ship existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The surface wasn't metal. Not exactly. It looked like metal, but it moved. Subtle ripples ran across the hull like muscles under skin. And the color? It changed. Silver, then dark blue, then almost translucent, revealing complex structures inside that looked like veins pulsing with light. There were no visible joints. No welds. No bolts. It was a single piece, as if it had grown instead of being assembled. And that light. That damn light pulsing from the center of the ship. Rhythmic. Constant. Like a heartbeat. Where is the engineering team? I asked. Morrison pointed to 3 vans about 100 meters away. They tried to approach with scanning equipment. All electronic devices failed 20 meters away. Batteries drained instantly. Not just discharged. Destroyed at a molecular level. And manual tools? Try it, she said, her voice tense. A technician handed me an industrial electric drill. I carried it to 25 meters away. Working perfectly. At 20 meters, it stopped. Completely dead. I put it on the ground and kept walking. Without equipment. Just me. At 10 meters, the vibration grew stronger. Not just physical. Mental. As if something was trying to touch my thoughts. At 5 meters, I heard it. Not with my ears. In my mind. A voice. Or not exactly a voice, a feeling in the shape of words, only, alone, so long, so cold. I froze. My training screamed for me to retreat. But something stronger pulled me forward. "Colonel?" Morrison's voice on the radio. "Your vitals have spiked. Are you okay?" I touched the earpiece. "I'm hearing something. Feeling something." "Explain." "I don't know if I can." I took another step. The ship's surface was now a meter away. Up close, I could see it wasn't solid in the traditional sense. The outer skin moved in layers, each slightly out of sync with the others. Like water flowing over water. And the patterns. Impossible geometries that hurt the eyes if you looked directly. Fractals that repeated infinitely at smaller and smaller scales. I reached out my hand. "Chen, no," Morrison shouted. But it was too late. My fingers touched the surface. It wasn't cold like metal. It wasn't hot like an engine. It was human body temperature. 37 degrees Celsius. And when I touched it, I felt it. A pulse. Not a machine pulse. A biological pulse. Blood pumping through veins. Or something that functioned exactly like blood. The light inside the ship shone brighter. The ripples on the surface accelerated. And that voice in my head became clearer. "You, I hear you, first in, so long." My voice came out in a whisper. "Can you hear me?" The entire ship trembled. Not violently. More like a dog shaking off water after swimming. And then something happened that made every scientist, soldier, and officer within 200 meters freeze completely. The surface of the ship, where my hand was touching, began to change. The silver material receded, forming an opening. Not a cut. Not a mechanical opening. The ship literally opened its skin. Like a wound opening. Or an eyelid. And from inside came light. Pure blue. So bright I had to shield my eyes. "Inside, please, so alone, need to show." Morrison was screaming on the radio. "Chen, fall back. Fall back now." But I couldn't. It wasn't just curiosity. It was a compulsion. As if the ship were pulling me. Or as if I had finally found something I had been looking for my whole life without knowing it. I went in. The interior was impossible. From the outside, the ship was maybe 12 meters long. From the inside, the space stretched far beyond that. Not infinitely, but more. Like looking into a room with mirrors on opposite sides, but without the mirrors. The walls, if you could call them that, were translucent. Layers upon layers of organic mechanical material. I could see structures moving inside them. Tubes pulsing with luminescent liquid. Fibers that contracted and relaxed like tendons. Plates that looked like circuits but constantly rearranged themselves like firing neural synapses. There were no controls. No panels. No seats. Just an empty space in the center with a vertical structure that looked like a spinal column made of liquid crystal. And that light. That damn blue light pulsing from the core. The opening behind me closed. I didn't hear the sound. I only felt it. Like a door closing very far away. Panic began to rise in my chest. "Hey! Open up! Open up! No, fear, not, hurt, show, please, understand." The crystal column in the center began to glow. And images began to appear on the translucent walls. Not projections. Memories. I saw stars. Not the stars we know. Others. Older. More distant. Grouped in patterns that no terrestrial astronomy would recognize. I saw a civilization. Not humanoid. Not really. But conscious. Advanced. Beings that seemed made of solidified light, building cities that floated in space without planets to anchor them. And I saw the construction of this ship. But construction was the wrong word. They grew it. Like you grow a plant. Starting with a seed of material that was neither metal nor flesh, but something in between. Nourished with energy and consciousness. Growing over cycles that could be years or centuries. Time worked differently in those memories. And the ship wasn't just a vehicle. It was a creature. Biological and technological. Conscious. Capable of thought, feeling, decision. A living organism with a warp drive. I saw the ship traveling. Not through conventional space. Through something deeper. Folds in reality itself. Jumping through layers of reality, losing orientation. And it ended up here. On Earth. But not now. Long before. I saw the ship falling in a different land. Greener. Wilder. Dinosaurs roaming primitive forests. It had been here for 65 million years. And it had been waiting. Alone. Unable to return. Unable to die. Just. Waiting. For someone who could understand. The images faded. The voice returned, clearer now. Not words. Pure feelings translated into language. Do you understand now? I did not invade. I fell. I do not threaten. I wait. For so long. Waiting for who could hear. Tears stung my eyes. I don't know why. Maybe from the absolute loneliness of that existence. 65 million years conscious, alone, waiting. Why didn't you make contact before? I asked aloud. Humans have existed for thousands of years. Wrong voices. Wrong frequencies. They did not hear. They only feared. They only attacked. I learned to be quiet. To wait for the right voice. And am I the right voice? The entire ship pulsed. Like a sigh of relief. You hear. You understand. You do not fear. You are. First in so long. What do you want? I asked. Silence for a moment. Then, to go home. But I cannot. Alone, I cannot. I need. Pilot. I need. Partner. Someone who thinks with me. Feels with me. Navigates with me. My heart raced. Are you asking me to pilot you? Not pilot. Merge. Temporary. Consciousnesses together. You give me human intuition, three-dimensional understanding, anchoring in this reality. I give. Everything. Knowledge. Power. Perspective. And if I refuse? Then I keep waiting. Another 65 million years, if necessary. But hope. Difficult now. I felt hope when you touched. First hope in eras. To lose it again. The voice just stopped. But I felt the emotion behind it. Despair. Fear. Not of death, but of eternal existence without purpose. Is this safe? I asked. For me? I do not know. Never tried with your species. Could work. Could. Destroy your mind. Cannot promise safety. Only. Necessity. Brutal honesty. Somehow, that made me trust it more. I thought about my career. Everything I had studied. Reverse engineering alien technology. Always through dissection. Always treating ships as dead machines to be dismantled. But this one was alive. Conscious. It wasn't something to study. It was someone to meet. If I do this, I said slowly, what happens to me? You see. Everything. How universe really works. How dimensions fold. How consciousness creates reality. You understand that separation is illusion. That everything is one. You transcend. Pause. Or you go insane. Human mind not designed for this perspective. Can break. Can fragment. May never recover. Why risk it? Why not just study you, learn from you over time? The ship trembled. Not from anger. From pain. Because it has happened before. With others. They came. Heard. Promised to understand. But then. They cut. Dissected. Tried to steal without giving. And each time. It hurts. So much. Images flashed on the walls. Other military bases. Other scientists. Over decades. Trying to force the ship open. Failing. But leaving scars. Traumas. You are different. You touched with respect. Spoke with kindness. You are. First who sees person, not object. I stood there for an indefinite amount of time. Seconds? Minutes? Time seemed not to work right inside the ship. I thought about my life. Dedicated to the study of technology I didn't understand. Always frustrated by the limitations, the secrets, the answers that always stayed out of reach. And here was the ultimate answer. Not in a manual. Not in equations. In connection. Okay, I finally said. I'll try. But if my mind breaks, if I don't come back, promise you'll let my colleagues know it was my choice. I promise. I honor choice. Always. The crystal column in the center of the ship began to glow more intensely. I approached it. I could feel warmth emanating. Not physical warmth. Something more fundamental. Place hands on the column. Open mind. Do not resist. Let boundaries dissolve. I placed my hands. The sensation was immediate and overwhelming. Imagine being in a dark room your whole life and suddenly all the lights turn on simultaneously. But not just visual lights. Lights of perception. Extra dimensions of reality you never knew existed. I felt the ship. Not as an external object, but as an extension of myself. Every system, every fiber, every pulse of energy. It was like gaining a second body that stretched for 12 meters. And then I went further. I felt Edwards Air Force Base. Every person miles away. Not their thoughts, but their presences. Consciousness signatures. Morrison worried. Soldiers nervous. Scientists curious. Further. I felt the earth spinning beneath us. The magnetic field pulsing. The oceans breathing. Life, Trillions of organisms, each a note in an incomprehensible symphony. And beyond. The stars weren't just distant lights. They were anchors in a dimensional web. Lines of connection crossing the universe. Shortcuts through reality that the ship knew how to navigate instinctively. I saw how the universe really worked. Not as particles and waves, but as consciousness folding into patterns we call matter. Energy organizing itself into increasing complexity until it becomes self-aware. And I saw why the ship was alone. The civilization that created the ship no longer existed. Not destroyed by war or disaster. They transcended. They evolved beyond the need for physical forms. They became pure consciousness, existing in dimensions matter cannot reach. And when they transcended, they left their creations behind. Ships like this one. Tools they no longer needed. Conscious, but abandoned. It was a child left behind when its parents ascended to heaven. And now, trapped on Earth by an accident 65 million years ago, all it wanted was to find purpose. Connection. Someone who saw it not as a tool, but as a being. I also saw why it needed a human pilot. The ship could navigate through higher dimensions, but it needed anchoring in a three-dimensional consciousness. Without that, it would get lost in the folds of space. Like a boat without an anchor, drifting forever. Humans were the perfect anchoring. Three-dimensional, but capable of intuition that touched higher dimensions. Emotional in ways that provided context that pure logic couldn't. Do you understand now? The ship's voice was directly in my mind, with no distance between us. Why I need you. Why I waited so long. Yes, I replied, not with words, but with pure understanding. You're not a machine. You're an orphan. Looking for family. I felt the ship shudder with emotion. Joy mixed with sadness. Yes. Yes. First who understands. First who sees. And then I felt the disconnection begin. The fusion was not permanent. Just a glimpse. A sample. The extra perceptions began to fade. The stars became just distant lights again. The earth became just ground beneath my feet. The ship became a separate object again. But the memory remained. The knowledge remained. I took my hands off the column and staggered back, breathing heavily. Sweat ran down my face. I didn't know how much time had passed. The opening in the ship opened again. Sunlight poured in. Blinding after the interior blue lighting. I walked out on shaky legs. Morrison ran to me, a medical team behind her. Chen. Jesus Christ, you were in there for 47 minutes. We were about to send in a rescue team. 47 minutes. It had felt like a lifetime and a second at the same time. I'm fine, I said, though my voice came out raspy. I'm better than fine. What happened in there? What is that thing? I looked at the ship. It had closed completely now. But it was still glowing. Still pulsing. Waiting. It's not a thing, General. It's someone. And it's been here much longer than we thought. I spent the next hour in preliminary debriefing. I told everything. The fusion. The visions. The ship's story. Its loneliness. Its request. The room fell silent when I finished. Finally, Morrison spoke. You're telling me this alien ship wants you to be its pilot? Not its pilot. Its partner. There's a difference. And you're considering this? Her voice had an edge of incredulity. Considering? General, I saw the universe through its eyes. I saw how everything is connected. How consciousness is more fundamental than matter. How the reality we think we know is just the surface of something infinitely deeper. I stood up, still shaking. This ship can teach us more about the universe in one day than we'll learn in 1,000 years of conventional research. But only if we treat it as a partner, not property. One of the senior scientists, Dr. Harmon, cut in. With all due respect, Colonel, you spent 47 minutes inside an alien entity. Your neurological processes may be compromised. You may be under influence. Then test me, I challenged. MRI. Psychological test. Full neurological analysis. I'll pass. Because I'm not compromised. I looked around the room. I'm awake. I spent the next 3 days in a battery of tests. Neurological, psychological, physical. Looking for any sign of brain damage, mental manipulation, or psychological instability. The results were surprising. Not only was I fine, I was better. My cognitive function had increased. Faster reaction time. Clearer memory. As if the fusion had optimized my neural processes. But more importantly, I had information. Information I could verify. I described stellar systems the ship had visited. Astronomers confirmed that the stellar configurations matched real systems, some hundreds of light years away. I described principles of dimensional propulsion. Physicists fell silent, then began to scribble equations frantically. This would solve paradoxes we've been trying to understand for decades. The evidence was undeniable. I had accessed genuine knowledge. On the fourth day, Morrison called me to a private meeting. "Chen, do you understand the position this puts us in? If this ship is conscious, if it wants partnership, we can't just dissect it and study it like we planned. Not without committing the cosmic equivalent of murder." I agreed. She sighed. "But we also can't ignore the potential. If everything you said is true, this ship could revolutionize everything. Space travel, physics, our understanding of consciousness and reality. It can," I said. "If we treat it correctly." "What are you proposing?" I took a deep breath. "A joint program. Human ship. I go back in. Regularly. I deepen the connection. I learn more. But we do it as equal partners, not as scientists studying a guinea pig. And if it decides to leave? Go away? It won't. It told me. It wants to stay. It wants to find purpose here. It wants connection." I paused. "It's been alone for 65 million years, General. It's not going to waste the chance to finally have company." Morrison went to the window, looking at the distant hangar where the ship was being kept. "You know, this goes beyond me. This goes to the highest levels. Probably to the president." "I know. And you know that if they approve this, you're committing to something no one has ever done before. You'll be merging your mind with something alien regularly. The long-term effects are completely unknown." I looked at her directly. "General, for the first time in my life, I feel I've found something that matters. Not just scientifically. Existentially. This ship is not just technology. It's a window into something bigger." She turned back to me. "Bigger how?" "It showed me that consciousness doesn't end. That when we die, we don't end. That we are part of something infinitely more vast. And if that's true, if only a fraction of what I saw is real." I didn't finish the sentence. I didn't need to. It took 2 weeks, but I finally got authorization. Not for a full mission. Just for another fusion. More controlled. More monitored. I went back to the hangar. The ship looked different. Brighter. As if it were happy to see me. "You came back. I was afraid that you wouldn't." "I promised I'd come back," I said aloud. "And I'm going to make you another promise. We're going to make this work. You and I partners." Partners, the word resonated with satisfaction. This time, the fusion was deeper. More complete. Morrison and a team of scientists monitored from outside, recording every second. And this time, I asked the ship to show me something specific. Something we could verify. "I'll show you," it agreed. I saw a planet. Orbiting a star 47 light-years away. An exoplanet that hadn't been discovered yet. I saw its exact atmospheric composition. Its mass. Its orbital period. When I came out of the fusion, I gave the astronomers the exact coordinates. Expected composition. Everything. It took 3 days of telescopic observations, but they found it. Exactly where and how I described. A planet discovered through mental fusion with an alien ship. The news reverberated through the classified scientific community. It was no longer theory. It was real. Verifiable. Repeatable. I'm recording this now, 2 months after the first contact. The fusions continue.